I've lived on Bell Parkway my whole childhood. Growing up, I've never seen or heard of anything bad happening here. There was this one time someone hit a tree while riding his bike. But apart from that, everything was bliss. Don't worry, the guy was okay. A neighbor told me that he was staring at his crush when it happened. But one day, I discovered a disturbing truth about my street. At the end of Bell Parkway, there's a house that's always vacant. I used to think that it was because it's too expensive or something. That was until something happened that eventually led me to the truth. It all started when my friend Darwin moved back into his parents' house. They passed away in a car accident and they left the place to him. By then, I was living somewhere else. When I heard what happened, I drove to his old home and gave my condolences. We started with typical small talk, but then Darwin said something confusing. He said something about a smoky smell that came from his room. I'd visited Darwin's house lots of times since we were children, yet I couldn't recall a single time when I smelled smoke. Darwin explained that the smell only occurred at night. He had no idea where the smell was coming from. What was more strange was that his parents never noticed it. From what Darwin could tell, the source was coming from outside his house. He has a habit of sleeping with the window open during warmer nights. Darwin concluded that his parents didn't smell anything because they slept with their door and window closed. I asked Darwin if he saw something outside, like a fire. Darwin swore that he never saw any fire or smoke. Anyway, it's been years since Darwin moved away from his parents. Whatever caused the stench back then had to be gone by then. I got a call from Darwin the next day. He decided to sleep in his old room during his first night in his parents' house. He wanted to be sure that the nightly smoke smell was gone, but to his dismay, it wasn't. He was about to close the window when something caught his eye. There was a faint glow coming from one of the windows of a neighboring house. That house was the empty one at the end of the street. Darwin thought it was a small fire. He called the fire department and told them there was smoke coming from next door. When the firefighters arrived, they couldn't find anything. They only noticed a lingering smell of smoke. The firefighters believed that a group of people broke into the house to smoke. As lame as the theory was, no one had a better explanation. After that, Darwin decided to take matters into his own hands. Darwin asked me to investigate the house with him the following night. A normal person would have refused. I, on the other hand, was willing to do so. In all honesty, I too wanted to know what was causing the smoke. That evening, I met Darwin at his house. The plan was to break into the house once we smelled the smoke. If someone was responsible, we'd call the police. Darwin kept a handgun in his room for protection. I keep pepper spray on me at all times. Once the smell returned, we made our move. We entered through a window in the back of the house. The stench got relatively strong as soon as the window opened. Darwin and I followed the smell to a room on the second floor. We soon realized that it was the room Darwin saw the glow in. The smell was definitely the strongest in that room. As Darwin and I looked around, I noticed a slight glow coming from the closet. I tapped Darwin's arm and then pointed at the closet. We both stood in front of the door, preparing for a confrontation. I grabbed the doorknob and turned it slowly. I then opened the door quickly, holding up my pepper spray. What Darwin and I found would haunt us forever. The entire inside of the closet was on fire. Standing in the center of the chaos was a woman in a tattered dress. Her skin was charred with most of her hair missing. Her dress was torn up and a foot was missing a slipper. The female reached out to me as she shuffled in my direction. I slammed the door shut and Darwin and I fled the house. We retreated back into Darwin's place, scared to death. Neither of us slept a wink that night. When I drove back home the following morning, I decided to do some digging. All my life, I never cared about the vacant house's history, but after what I'd witnessed, I decided to finally do some research. I googled the address and found a news article. The headline read, "Tragedy on Bell Parkway." Here's the story of the house based on what I've read. About 30 years before I was born, a couple named Kent and Margaret lived in the house. Kent was on a business trip when something terrible happened. In the middle of the night, the house caught on fire. Margaret was found in the master bedroom closet, burned to a crisp. The police determined that she was in the closet when someone threw a Molotov cocktail at her. Unfortunately, they never caught the guy responsible. Kent moved away after that, and the place had been vacant since. I emailed the article to Darwin immediately after reading it. We figured that the fire department didn't see Margaret's ghost because she disappeared before they got there. I then realized the reason for the house's vacancy. It's because nobody wants a home with a dark past. I also suspect that some potential buyers were worried about having to see Margaret. I can't say for sure if that's true or not. In any case, I hope the house gets demolished soon.